Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Fantasasa. This is Battlefield 1. In today's guide, we're going to be taking a closer look at the artillery truck. Specifically, of course, all three available packages, the mortar package, the anti-aircraft package, and the artillery package, how they compare, what they entail, which of them is the best one to use, and how to best use these vehicles on the battlefield. With that being said, let's get straight into the first package, arguably, or at least subjectively in my opinion, the most boring, the least useful, and that is the mortar package. It comes with a primary heavy machine gun, that is essentially the machine gun that you can find scattered around the battlefield as stationary. Comes with that as primary, and as secondary you have available essentially a glorified support mortar. That is to say, it's relatively similar to the support. I believe it does slightly more damage, however not enough to give you a one-shot kill, and it comes with increased range over the support mortar, of course. As special abilities, if you so will, you have additional types of mortar ammunition. One smoke and one gas, useful for clearing points or for masking positions, however in reality nowhere close to as good as something like a special repair. Now, how are you going to best use this tank? Well, when using this tank to be effective at all, really, you need a frontline focused game mode. That of course includes frontlines as game mode itself, but also operations. The second criteria that a map and game mode is going to have to meet is that there is plenty of infantry clusters in predictable locations. Once more, operations serves this purpose very well, essentially bombing the defending team on the flag that they're trying to defend. This is really the only time that this mortar is useful, because your damage against vehicles is essentially non-existent. You can only really take out infantry, and unless you want to just be using your heavy machine gun to do so, in which case you're much better off just using a flanker tank to take out enemy infantry, you're going to have to find a way to keep back and focus on certain areas of the map that you know are going to be filled with enemy infantry. With that out of the way then, why is this tank not very effective? Well, essentially because you can't push the enemy. You're relatively useless in moving them off the point. Yes, you can get a couple of kills, but that's not enough to make the difference needed from a tank asset in Battlefield 1 to clear that point in operations. Getting kills is nice, but especially as attacking team is not really useful if you don't help push the front line. As defending team, it's a little bit more useful because you're taking out tickets. However, I'd argue most tanks in the game will net you more kills than the mortar truck will, certainly on a kill per minute basis. Your kill streak may not be quite as long if you get into a flanker tank, a light flanker tank that is, but you're certainly going to be doing more kills per minute, and given that tanks do respawn after a short amount of time, you're being much more effective for your team in this instant. With the mortar package then out of the way, let's move on to the anti-aircraft package. This comes with the primary light machine gun, essentially a bipoded Lewis machine gun, very precise, quite capable actually at taking out infantry even at longer ranges, at least from a precision point of view. If they stand still, if you can get a sniper with one of these, you actually can take them down if they don't duck for cover. And of course, as secondary, an AA gun, similar to the stationary AA gun, simply has a little bit more of an increased range, making it more useful against taking out targets further away from your tank. The special abilities of the tank are a smoke as well as a quick repair, with the quick repair obviously being quite useful. But usually when it comes to this tank, you don't actually get to use the quick repair, because you're either taking out by a flanking piece of armor, which will kill you in a fashion that no emergency repair is going to be able to save you, because you have very little option to retaliate and do serious damage against a flanking tank, or you're going to be taking out by a bomber, and that is of course a one bomb kill, if you so will, at least a one bombing run. Taking out those bombers as anti-AA gunner is vital, because they are the only thing that really can do anything to you. If you play it passively, you're going to once more focus likely on the frontline types of game modes. However, in Conquest this works as well. The key here is that you stay away from combat, essentially. As boring as it sounds, that's the best way to really do it, because if you get on a point with this gun, you've got very limited anti-infantry capabilities, and of course, while your Lewis gun is very good at taking out enemy infantry, it's only capable of doing that in your front view. You're very much limited in the area you can take out infantry targets from if they're in close quarter combat, and that is of course something similar to what, for example, a heavy tank faces. However, a heavy tank has gunner positions. The artillery aircraft package obviously doesn't. This package is essentially only really worth it if your team's getting completely destroyed by enemy aircraft, because as soon as you've taken down those aircraft, there's not really that much for you to do, and things become quite boring. Moving then on to our last package, the artillery package for the artillery truck. Twice artillery in there, don't know why. Certainly the most useful of the three, the most frequently used, and the most enjoyable. And this thing's actually capable, at least for me personally, at keeping up with my favorite tank, the light flanker tank. And the reason for that are quite simple. First of all, same primary as on the anti-aircraft package, a Lewis light machine gun, which suits the role of this tank, that is to say the artillery package, much better as it does the anti-aircraft package. The secondary is essentially stationary cannon that you can find scattered around the map, just slightly better, a little bit better reload, a little bit better arc if I'm not mistaken, which makes taking out targets at medium to long range of course easier. This thing has some serious splash damage against infantry and hits like a truck against armor, especially against those more feeble light tanks that you find creeping up on you from time to time. When it comes to taking out armor, the importance is that you don't directly engage the heavier pieces of armor on the battlefield. You don't want to become close quarter one-on-one against a howitzer light tank, and you don't want to do the same for any land ship that is properly staffed, a heavy tank or an assault tank. They don't necessarily out-damage you, but they out-health you, out-tank you quite literally because they have more health. When it comes to the other two versions of the light tanks, you can actually, especially if you get the first shot off, take them out in a one-on-one as long as they don't flank you. That's the thing that you're going to have to watch out for, because an intelligent light tank driver is going to try and flank you if he sees that you are taking them out in close quarter combat. At longer ranges, obviously, they won't be able to get to you. When it comes to taking out infantry, once more making sure that always the music is in front of your tank is quite important. Unlike the other tanks, you are a little bit more flexible because your main gun, that's to say the big ass gun on the back of your tank, is actually capable of rotating 360 degrees. However, you've got limited amount of ammunition in this, and it's still not an ideal tank for being in close quarter situations with, because assaults will make short work of it. You're going to want to, in the ideal scenario, flank the enemy in a game of operations preferably, and get a height advantage on them. I've got two examples of this happening in today's footage, once on Sinai Desert, once on Foul Fortress. In case of you were wondering, all of this is actually from one game of operations where we for once actually managed to get past the first map and get all the way to the last, where of course we failed on the last set of objectives on Sinai Desert as per usual because they're very difficult to take out. Anyway, it's a good demonstration of how you can effectively use the tank. The limitation of this tank is of course, unlike the light flanker tank or more generally the light tank, save of course the howitzer version, is you're not as capable in very close quarter situations because, well, your weaponry isn't designed for quick movement left to right 360 degree operation. Yes, your main cannon is, but you can't even move your tank when operating your main cannon. Furthermore, going backwards with an artillery truck is probably the slowest thing you can do in Battlefield 1. Quite literally, walking seems to be quicker than driving backwards with this tank for whatever reason. So if you have to escape incoming fire, the tip here is definitely to drive forwards, turn around, and then escape. You're literally quicker than driving just a few meters backwards. That's why the tank isn't, for example, as capable on Amiens. However, on longer, more open maps, this is probably the superior choice to the light flanker tank. What you, however, have to pay attention to with this tank is ensuring that you are relevant to your team. What I mean by this is, you obviously can't storm the point the same way a heavy tank or a light flanker tank would do. That robs you of the opportunity to essentially make that last minute push and help your team get onto an otherwise very well protected objective. What you can do, however, is continuously push forward the front line by putting down sustained and good, especially anti-infantry fire, and scaring off most tanks from actually progressing onto your friendly infantry. This is where the tank becomes relevant and actually useful to its team, unlike, well, the mortar package specifically and the anti-aircraft package as soon as you've taken out enemy planes. However, getting that balance right can be sometimes difficult and is once more dependent on map and positioning. The last thing we have to mention about this package is its anti-aircraft capabilities, because with a bit of luck, and especially against those pesky bombers, you've actually got a pretty good shot at taking them out. And you'll see that in my game of operations where I used the artillery package, I was able to actually take out 3 bombers, and I think at one point also an additional attack plane, with all 3 of those bombers actually being within the first map on Foul Fortress. Those are juicy targets, a one-shot kill for you, and especially due to their low speed, relatively easy to get. It's free kills, and it's certainly beneficial to your team. With all that being said though, I'd like to hear from you down below in the comments what you think of the artillery truck, as well as the different packages available. Do you prefer the artillery package as much as I do, or are you more of an anti-aircraft or mortar package user? You're more than welcome to also include any advice that you have for any tank drivers that I haven't included in this video, as well as of course your usual video suggestions for future Battlefield 1 videos. But with all that being said, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you in the next Battlefield 1 video.